welcome to Linux Saloon, a place to discuss tech, open source, and where Linux is always on tap. Each show will have a talk about a Linux project, could be a distribution, a desktop environment, or application. We also chat about the news or any variety of topics from the community. Anything that is Linux, tech, and open source related is on the table for discussion. I'm Nate, a Linux fitness and vintage tech enthusiast with an almost unhealthy obsession with the OpenSUSE project. With me today, I got a fantastic group of people, a fine panel of folks. I've got Eris, Ben, Jinda, Rick, and Seeker. And I had an Eric, and he's supposed to kind of kick things off, but I don't know where he is right now. Maybe he had internet issues. Hopefully comes back quickly. So how is everybody tonight?
Excellent.
Living large, fine.
Well, good. You said living large?
Living large and living fine.
Living large and living fine. Okay. I've heard of living large before. I'm not really sure even what that means.
Well, when you're 6'6", Nate, I guess we could count it that.
You're 6'6"?
I have a cousin who's taller. He's 6'10".
Wow. Man, that means
Yeah.
the number of people in the world that are taller than you is a short list.
Yeah. Very small. Yeah.
That means you are 6 inches-ish taller than I am. That's pretty amazing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, my dad's even shorter than me. He's 6'5" or something.
So what's your secret? What did you eat that made you 6'6"?
Sorry?
What did you eat that made you 6'6"? Obviously no coffee, right? Because coffee stunts growth.
I had a growth spurt in the middle of midlife, and I was just like, God.
Oh.
When I was younger, yeah, I grew abnormally tall, so yeah, and it just never stopped since. So, I mean, it has slowed down, but you know, it's 6'6" was where it stopped. So, yeah.
Well,
I'm hoping it stays that way.
yeah. So like the problem with being that tall is clothing has got to be a challenge to buy, because if you it's not made for
it's not an easy endeavor. You know, we've had to go online to buy things, and it's just like, golly, you know, we have to go online to buy shoes and, you know, sneakers, sandals, the whole shebang. It's not, and then we have to do the same for jeans, and oh my God, yeah, it's just not. Hey, Ricky.
So
welcome.
I imagine then you have larger feet then too, right? Like
Size 15 wides, man. Yeah.
Wow.
It's scary. Like, my cousin has the same problem. You know, we have to custom buy, you know, certain, yeah, because finding, like, you know, clothes and things is like, golly. And having a fast as heck metabolism doesn't help either. So it's like, shoot. Doesn't help the growth problem at all. So
You're almost like
almost like a gentle giant. Yeah, it's like, shoot.
So Eric, he's 6'6" with a 15 wide shoe.
Okay, yeah, I'm 15 as well.
Oh, okay.
I'm only 6'4" though, so
6'4".
It's got me.
You're shorter than me, dude. Yeah, it's
yeah. I wore 13s for a long time because I didn't know any better. Like, the only size shoes you could get, the biggest you could get was like 13, and so I wore those for a long time. And then
Narita says he is extremely tall, and here I am 5 foot tall, if that. No wonder my name.
So the nice thing is, Ben, you know, if we're walking down a street or in a parking lot,
Yeah.
and it's raining, like a thunderstorm, you know, lightning, you're more inclined to get you know, struck with lightning than I am. Yeah.
Oh, that would not be fun for either of us, though.
Lightning rod.
Yeah.
Lightning.
That's what we call you, Ben.
Hey, at least it's not Nimrod.
Wasn't that what, like a Greek, is that Greek for like hunter? Like
Yeah.
like an experienced hunter, something like that? I don't know. I could be wrong. Someone can fact check me on that. That's what you say now.
Yeah.
Fact check. Fact check me. But who's to say the facts are right? Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, good deal. If you have not done that straw poll, be sure to do so. It's one of those things that we do here to kind of kick off the conversation. If not going off into a tangent about being tall and having the wrong ill-fitting clothing. And also on the docket for today, we're going to be talking about Wave Terminal, suggested by Mr. Jinda himself to try out, something that I thought was rather exciting. And then there's a time after Wave Terminal. We'll got a few news items in there in the list. Do our community free pour, and also if you have a project that you would like to share on Linux Saloon, and take away some of Ben's airtime, that's totally fine with me. And then we'll do our last call. So, but first, what are we doing in Linux and tech? So, Eric, you said you got yourself a PineTime, and I thought this was really interesting. I remember Thomas got himself a PineTime, and then I think he broke his first one, got another one, and I never heard anything back about it. So I'm interested in knowing about this PineTime.
Yeah, I'd never had a smartwatch before, but I always wear a watch, and I usually have like a Timex, just a digital, pretty normal sort of watch. I had a running watch that you could do laps with and all that, and then more of sort of an outdoor type looking watch, a green strap and stuff. And I've always used them, and I'm used to how they work. Very simple timer, they have an alarm, stuff like that, but they're basic. And so I've looked at smartwatches over the years, and one of the biggest things that have always bothered me is battery life, because I just don't like the idea that I'd have to charge it. And some of them you can barely get a day's use out of it if you're actually using it. And so that was one part of it. The other part was just the general cost, because they tend to be pretty expensive. And then another part was that I felt like, why do I need yet another device? I've got my phone in my pocket. And what's happened in the last, say, year or so, somehow I don't feel my phone much anymore. And I don't know if just like, I don't know. A lot of times I have it on like vibrate, and I may not hear it and I may not feel it. And if my wife's trying to get a hold of me, she's saying like, why don't you answer me? Are you ignoring me? And so I thought, okay, well, someone started talking about PineTime maybe about a month ago, a little bit longer, and I said, oh, $25, and it's not going to be obviously like a Samsung watch or like one of the high-end ones, but if I can get the if it vibrates well enough for me to feel it, to get notifications, that's really all I need, and to have it show the time and the date and like normal watch stuff, and the same things like a timer and a stopwatch and stuff, which it does, and it has all that stuff. And so I ordered it, and it took a long time to get, which of course it would, because it comes from China, and the tracking system that they use is very confusing. It was like very difficult. They had like the Chinese post on one section and then the USPS on the other, and they never sort of lined up date-wise, or could never quite discern what was happening, and it seemed to take for a long time, and then it just showed up one day, like out of nowhere. So the positives to it, the things that I like the most, are that the battery life is kind of insane. Like it lasts for me about 8 days. So, and that's with, just using it as a normal watch. I don't keep the face on or anything, so I just tap and to see it, or you can shake, and then it turns on that way. It has a heart rate monitor, which I didn't realize, and that's nice, and actually works really well. It tracks steps, which is another nice thing. So there's a little bit of like a fitness aspect to it. The notifications work well, and but that's about it. And so Pine, they develop InfiniTime, which is the sort of ROM that's on here, if that's how you say it, the operating system. And it works, pretty well. It's kind of basic. It gives you like 4 different watch faces, and then just sort of like the basics of all those things I mentioned, like the timer and the alarm and kind of stuff like that. And it all works, well. There's no problems with it. It's not, like again, it's not like what I'd expect from something that I paid hundreds of dollars for, when you pay 25 for something, you kind of, I didn't expect it to be nearly as good as it is. And it's actually really good, the hardware and the InfiniTime. Where it kind of falls apart is in order to connect it to my phone, you have to use a third-party app, and really the only one that works is it's called Gadget Bridge, and it's an open source application that is designed to connect to a number of different watches. And so what that basically means is that it is kind of like general, where it has a lot of different features that are not specific to any one watch, meaning that in some cases, like it tracks stuff. It has a section for sleep tracking and activity tracking and all these different things that never get filled in because the PineTime doesn't have the sensors or the, the telemetry or whatever data to report that. And so you end up having like these big gaps in the charts and the data, and it just kind of looks weird. And not that, and it also has these really odd circular like graphs, which I don't quite understand them. They don't really make sense when I look at them. I don't understand what it's trying to tell me. Like it has a key to it, and I've sat and kind of stared at it, and either I'm stupid or it's just really confusing unnecessarily. But so that's kind of been the hardest part, is like just to get this set up was confusing because it's Bluetooth to connect it, which you go to connect it and it won't connect and you can't figure out why. And you sit there and of course, like, turn on Bluetooth, turn off Bluetooth, you reboot everything, scratch your head, try all over again. So it took me like literally hours the first day I got it to get it to hook up, and you have to do it like a very specific way in a very specific order. And I finally discerned it through the, trial and error that I, did it every way until I figured it out. And sometimes it'll just not connect. Sometimes it won't transfer data. Sometimes it just doesn't work. and it's third party. So I mean, Pine doesn't really have control over it. But I kind of feel like without, I mean, it's still going to act as a watch, right? You're still going to be able to use it as the hardware it is, but without the connection to your phone, like it's kind of, at least for my purposes, the whole reason, again, I wanted it was more for having the notifications. That was what made it better than a normal watch. So anyway, yeah, the watch itself, great. InfiniTime, no offense to the developers. Maybe it works great with another piece of hardware, but overall, yeah, PineTime's pretty cool, especially for $25.
So it's at $25, you said, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that brings the expectations down a little bit. No, I mean,
oh yeah,
fairness.
Yeah, absolutely. But it solves all those problems that I mentioned. Like, in even the best watches today, like apparently one of the better ones is the OnePlus Watch 2, and it has 2 chips and 2 operating systems. One is Wear OS, and that's going to be like the one that gives you all of the Android type stuff, the Google stuff. And then it has a low power one, which is just running like the time functions and I think some of the other sort of like lower down functions. And the point of that is that you can get up to like 100 hours of runtime out of it versus something like the Google Pixel Watch that just came out. You get, if you're lucky, like 36 hours. And that's if you're not really touching it and using it very much. The problem with that for me is I know I would forget to charge it. And then it would be like, well, what's the point if it's dead? And then I could just see me putting on one of my old Timexes and just being like, okay, well, that was $300 well spent. So yeah, that's still a problem. I mean, I could see that the 100 hours is acceptable. I mean, that's like 4 days or so. So that would be fine if the OnePlus is something like, so what I'm doing now is sort of testing it. I like having, I didn't expect to enjoy it, but I like having the step counter and I like having the heart rate monitor. The more expensive ones have even more sensors, so that they'll do like blood gas, O2 sensor and different things as well. They do the sleep tracking. They do like all this sort of extra data, which, if you're doing any kind of fitness stuff is really great because it's just automatically tracking, and you know.
How does it store the
You don't even have
information?
to think about it.
Can you pull it down
Well,
and like put it into like a spreadsheet, or what does it have for managing that data?
So you know, for this, you can actually export it as a CSV and have, you know, the relevant time points whenever it's actually like I guess tracking an event that's worth capturing or something. But again, I think it's going to be probably pretty rough, and the PineTime is really only tracking like extremely rudimentary information compared to something. So I mean, I would say that this is a great gateway. So just exactly like in my case, I've never had a smartwatch, never wanted to pay the you know, entrance fee, if you will, to get one. Never wanted to deal with the short battery life, and so this is, excuse me, this has been great for that. It's very inexpensive, comes with a nice charger. It itself is a great size. Like I don't like huge watches. I'm not one of those bro guys that have like the gigantic, you know, clock face on my wrist. Just not for me. I don't like it. So this is a perfect size for me. And also, I think it looks really sleek. I mean, it's just simple black.
Mhm.
You know, the face has been pretty durable. I've already beat it against the wall a couple times on accident, and it hasn't scratched. So, I mean, I'm sure if I tested that theory hard enough, I would scratch it. But yeah, very simple as a single button. It's waterproof, up to 3 meters or whatever for, you know, whatever the IP rating is for 3 meters and 1 hour or whatever. So, I mean, you can wear it in the shower, or you can get it wet if you want. I take it off. I mean, I don't really want to test that theory, but so basic band, and it fits any 20 millimeter band. So you can replace it with anything you want. And with shipping, it was like 40 from China,
Would
and
you
it
say
took.
the step counter is accurate?
It's actually pretty accurate, yeah. Believe it or not, it's consistent. Let's put it that way. I have not taken the like manual, and actually, Marquez Brownlee just put out a video not long ago, a short showing like he compared 4 different watches, and they were all a little different. And then he compared them to like a manual $10 pedometer, and they were all within a certain range. And so I think it's pretty accurate based on it, and it is certainly consistent. So and that part actually works pretty well with the app that you can use, where it does show you steps, and it gives you like a nice little sort of chart, you know, whether or not, and you can put in your own information in terms of your goals for steps and distance and stuff like that. And you can even put in the length of your stride, so you can fine tune it that much to kind
wow.
of say like, yeah. So
That
so yeah,
just
I
depends
think it's
on
actually
upon
pretty
if I'm in a
accurate.
hurry or not. It's not always in a hurry.
Well, sure. And you probably want to average it out, you know.
Yeah.
And then again, and steps are, it's more of a sort of broad strokes kind of thing. I mean, you're
Sure.
not going to get to the step. The heart rate monitor is actually better than I thought. Some people had said that they'd had some issues with it. One person in particular that complained about it, I know for a fact, has extremely hairy arms. And I think maybe that's part of the problem, is it uses a green light to sort of shine down into your skin. And if it can't get to your skin because you have a lot of body hair, then yeah, obviously that's going to be a problem. Some
So
of them have like little metal posts, I think, that touch your skin instead of the light.
So there's a question. I think it's directed toward you. It's from someone that goes by Rooster. It says,
Okay.
as a NeoVim user, does it support Vim style workflow? I don't know if that's directed toward you or not, but I'm hoping it is.
No, I'm guessing that's a Wave AI question. I don't think it has anything to do with the PineTime. I don't know what you could possibly correlate between the PineTime and NeoVim, but maybe, unless I'm much misunderstanding the question.
I don't know.
Create some macros for the PineTime.
Oh, I don't, you know what? It's a good question. I'm sure. So there are 2 versions of this that they sell. One is sealed and one is unsealed. And the unsealed one is really intended to be a development model where you can take it apart and hook in leads to actually, you know, tinker with it and, play with the accelerometer, play with the different sensors and stuff like that. And I would imagine then with Infinitime maybe that there's some API stuff that you can script stuff. I don't know. I don't know. And maybe a lot of it is going to depend on what you can do in terms of signal over Bluetooth or messaging, like that type of stuff. Not really something I have played with, and um, you know, it depends. I don't know. 'Cause this is like I mentioned the gateway concept. I really feel like now that I have this, I would like to maybe look at something like a OnePlus, simply because I like having all of this data. The one thing that I don't necessarily love is so you think of something like a Google Pixel Watch or a Samsung Watch. I have to assume that they're going to take a lot of that data, right? And I don't know what kind of privacy controls you have to actually say, I don't want to share this stuff with you. I want to keep this on my device, or, if they're, let's say they all have an app, right? And that's how you're tracking the fitness information in particular. Does that fitness data go to the cloud somewhere and sit on a server, and then that you're accessing it remotely from the app with the data stored somewhere else, or is it stored locally? So, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't love the idea that there would be that much kind of like data sitting out there, but I'm not sure. But I do really like having that kind of specific data about, because I'm trying to gain weight right now. It's something that I've been trying to do for a while now, and I am working with nutritionists. I'm working with physical therapists. I'm working with different people, and I get asked a lot of times to, either log stuff or, recall, okay, well, what kind of activity did you do? How long were you doing it? That kind of stuff. And I don't do as good a job as I'd like in kind of recording that stuff. And if I had something that was giving me more specific data, it would be very helpful for me to track that kind of stuff. And so, and I had a Garmin, I think it was a Garmin, years ago, and it was just a very basic. It was more for fitness tracking than it was as like a watch. It was actually kind of a terrible watch. It was much more of a fitness tracker, and the battery only lasted for about a year before it would like only last for like a couple hours before it went dead. So it was kind of worthless after that short period of time. And it never really gave me all the information I wanted anyway, because it was kind of, I don't know, I guess it just wasn't as good as I had hoped it was going to be. So in terms of a gateway, I think this has proven out that I like having a smartwatch from the standpoint of having it connected to my phone so that I can get and feel the notifications. I've seen that some smartwatches you can actually like have LTE connections, and so like a wireless connection, you can make phone calls. I don't need to do a lot of that kind of like advanced stuff. I don't really care. I'm more interested in the fitness stuff, the notifications, and I don't know. I mean, maybe there's some stuff on those better watches that it would be interesting if I played with it, but I have a feeling a lot of it's just kind of like, you you try it one time and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's interesting, and then you never use it again, which is the truth for a lot of that kind of stuff. So, but in terms of the $40 I spent on this with shipping, I'm very happy with the hardware. Again, the watch itself is very solid. Battery life is unbelievably good. And I hope that maybe Gadget Bridge or some other software gets a little better over time and makes this a little bit more usable, or adds more usability to it, I guess. But
That's fair.
I'm not holding my breath. For the money I spent, I can't complain at all. And the only thing I worry about is like, how long is the internal battery going to last? Is it going to be one of those things where it's 2 years and then it doesn't hold a charge anymore? And then what do you do? Because I'm sure once you take it apart, it's never going to be waterproof again, if you can even replace the battery. So But again, for that price, you kind of just say, well, for 25 bucks, if you get 2 years out of it, like, okay, well, I guess I'll just buy another one. So
Yeah, I think
although
you could probably re-waterproof it. You ever heard of Flex Seal? Pull that around the edge and good to go.
is that one of those infomercials
Yeah.
where they're
Yep. They slap it on the tank and it holds. Or they spray it
Nice.
like on the bottom of a boat too. I wonder where that boat is
Yeah, still floating, I'm sure.
Probably not.
Oh gosh. Anyway, so yeah, that's my little report on the PineTime. If anyone ever was just questioning whether they should try it or not, for the money, I mean, if you have the money and you're just curious, and if you've never had a smartwatch, or if you just want, like, part of this too, and this is really dumb, is I think wearing like an old school Timex kind of watch looks old now. Like as conceited as that might be, like this is the old style that I was wearing. And I don't know, there's something that's a little more like
Sleek.
cleaner and sleek about this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I can tell you that
So I
Rudy's
kinda-
Retro Intel will take a bit of umbrage with that comment.
I know. Hey, I've bought probably 10 of those in a row since I was like in high school. I've been wearing this same watch for 40 years, you know? So
I haven't worn a watch since probably in about 10 years. Maybe less than that. No, less than that. Because I had a Fitbit in 2016, I think.
I don't know what it is. I like having a watch on. You know, even though I have a phone in my pocket and there's, you know, clocks all around me, I instinctively do this. I always look at my watch because that's like the source of truth of time in my life, you know. So, and I wear it on my dominant arm, which you're not supposed to do, right?
Oh, really? Is that how it works?
Yeah,
I don't know
because
how
I'm
it
a
works.
lefty.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, most people wear it on their left arm, but that's because they're right-handed. I wear it on my left arm and I'm left-handed, so inevitably my watches get beat up because I'm always, you know, if I'm hammering or something, like it's getting beat up because of it. So
Right. Oh, I see. That makes sense. So I was going to ask, and this is probably a long shot. I'm sure not. But is it possible to use the PineTime and then integrate that with like something like a Fitbit app? So, like, let's say you have your friends who are doing like Fitbitting this. Could you do that or no?
I don't know if there would be some way to like transform the data and then pipe it in a way that would make sense. That's the only way I could see that it would work. I don't think there's any way that you could have it go directly from the watch into the app. I think you'd have to do something like an intermediary process to almost like an interface where you'd have to be taking the data from the watch, getting it out in whatever format you can, transforming the format, and then somehow importing that into an app, if that was possible, you know. That because if you think of, I don't know if you've ever used Google's Health, is it Google Fit? Yeah, Fit. Fit does that where it aggregates data from multiple sources. So you can have different types of watches and fitness gear and all kinds of different data points, but it's good at sort of bridging that and importing that data. And it doesn't work with PineTime. I've already sort of played around with it, but that's their approach to it, is to not be, they're a bit of agnostic in terms of like where that data is coming from, but then they, you know, aggregate it, put it together, and then you can kind of combine the different sources and then have a sort of overall view.
Well,
But I
Heather
don't know
Brown
if-
says, my body can't handle a smartwatch. The radioactive stuff gets to me. So,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I can't disagree with that. I mean, I think about that all the time too, with my phone in my pocket, you know, being so close to, you know, parts and pieces.
sure.
Like,
Yeah.
it's probably not great to have some high-powered radios, you know, just irradiating everything right there, you know.
And interestingly, she says she can't be around a microwave. So I wonder if it's like certain frequencies then that maybe cause difficulty. I don't know. Some people are sensitive to things.
I know some people are sensitive to power lines and different things too. And I mean, it's been proven that they're not making it up. Like they definitely have some sort of a sensitivity that most of us don't. So, or that maybe most of us don't recognize as being from that. I'm not sure. But yeah. Uh, it I would say if you were going to have a smartwatch, this is probably one of the lesser ones in terms of all of that signal stuff. But
Sure.
and you can turn off the Bluetooth on this. So really, I don't even know if it would have any kind of a radio signal, frankly. If you turn Bluetooth off, I mean, that's its only connection.
Right.
So if you turned it off, I mean, I don't know that there would be anything making a signal. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, very cool. Well, I'd be interested in hearing how it plays out over time. Ha,
Yeah.
PineTime.
Ha ha ha.
And yeah, because I mean, I might be interested, but I don't know. I got my daughter a Fitbit because she wanted a Fitbit, and now I kind of want to get one just so we can be Fitbit buddies. You know,
hmm
that might be the the thing. I don't know. Just a thought.
Yeah.
But
I think if you're going to use it and you think the data is useful, then that's really what it comes down to. Because again, it's charging, I think gets most people. You get it, you think you're going to use it, you're all gung ho with it, and then you realize like if you're not diligent about charging it, you can't get the value out of it. You have to be
Right.
like remembering the charge. Although they have gotten better with fast charging. The one I had years ago literally took like 6 hours to charge, and it was just like, what's the point?
Right.
But ones today, as far as I know, most of the newer ones, and I think Fitbit probably fits into that as well, is probably like maybe half an hour, 45 minutes at the most. So like if you forgot, you would still have maybe an opportunity to at least get like a half charge on it or something before you had to leave. I think it's less of an issue today than it would have been in the past.
Yeah, I think charging is definitely a lot better than it was 10 years ago on everything.
That's true of everything. I mean, it's crazy now. You look at your phone, you're like, oh, 10%, and then you throw it on the fast charger and get ready in the bathroom for 10 minutes and come back and you're at least have 20 or 25%,
I was gonna say closer to
So
40 or 50.
it depends on the charger.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of them are pretty incredible. Actually, the fastest charger I have is a backup battery. It's like a 20,000 milliamp backup battery.
Mhm.
I don't know how it fast charges faster than a wall socket, but that thing will charge my phone in like 20 minutes. It's crazy. So when I need a fast charge, I grab the battery, and you can take it with you. So there you go.
Yeah, well, that's pretty cool. Well, thanks, Eric. Well,
Absolutely.
I'll check up on that. See if you're still wearing it like in a couple weeks.
Yeah, if I'm not wearing it, it's either because it's broken, because I did something stupid, or because I'm really resisting. There's another OS you can put on it, and I'm resisting like hopping around and potentially messing things up. The other possibility is that I find like a used, more advanced version of a watch and try it instead. But we'll see.
Cool beans. I want to thank a couple people for showing up here. At Prophetic, Swift, and Popple Penguin. Appreciate you being here. Haven't seen Prophetic in a while. It's always good to see that wonderful face.
He's looking exceptionally clean cut these days. It's
I
all
know.
like shaved down nice. His hair's all cleaned up.
I think
He must have a real job or something.
Yeah, I was gonna
It's an
say.
AI filter.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, AI filter because they look like a hot mess.
That would make sense. I'm not saying. I take it back.
I guess I was also just saying that he was messed up before. Sorry, man. I didn't mean it that way.
I'm sure he's not offended. He doesn't seem like the offended type.
Nah.
All right. Well, Eris. So you put together a straw poll about what best describes your experience with using Wave Terminal. And for those that haven't done the straw poll, it should be there in the chat someplace. If you want to do that real quick, what your experience has been with Wave Terminal. But yeah, take it away.
So the question was, which best describes your experience with Wave Terminal? I didn't get any replies for this. And let me refresh one last time. The number one answer was 25%. Didn't have enough time, busy with work, busy with life. And then 20% was did not have a good time with it. 20% was changed. So now it's 19% Tux Penguin. 10% it is good. 10% it is okay. 5% it is amazing. 5% not interested in this exploration. 5% other. And that's about it. You're muted, Nate.
Thanks. Gotta, after I clear my throat, I gotta unmute. So I don't know how many people here tried Wave Terminal or not, but it's pretty cool. So if you haven't checked it out, in a nutshell, what Wave Terminal is, at least kind of the way I see it, and I might not have it completely right here, but Wave Terminal is it's just a terminal application, but it has some additional features, and you could almost say it kind of takes the terminal and modernizes it a bit, I guess you could say, with additional functions and different little creature comforts, I guess you could say. Now, I primarily use console because does anybody here use a drop-down terminal, like the Quake terminal looking thing? I use a Yaquake. I love it.
I used to.
Used to? Oh, are you too adult for that now?
I don't know. I had it on LXQT, and then sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't. And then after I stopped using it there, I just use control space and type in term and then pull it up that way.
I got it. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I still use Quake.
On GNOME, on Genome.
Yeah, Quake, or there is a DD term thing that's
Genome.
like an extension. Yeah. I don't know. I'm so used to just hitting F12, and I mean, I've literally had it that way for 15 years, and at this point, it's just kind of like, I mean, when I am testing out a new one, and if I'm in like Firefox, F12 opens up the
Helper,
developer
yeah.
tools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm always like, what happened? So I'm just so used to it at this point that I'm just need it. It'd be a terrible day for me if that wasn't available.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I have to have. I have to be able to just drop down terminal and just use it immediately because it's just one little thing. It's like I want to do a quick little check something or whatever. Or like I use Tailscale, for a lot of network stuff. And so I want to be able to switch Tailscale networks from like my network to work or whatever. And so it's kind of like a necessity. Got to have it, I guess, is what it boils down to. So anyway, a little bit about Wave Terminal. It uses web standards for things. It has an AI plugin, and you can have different workspaces. Those are the main features that I used anyway. I don't know if anybody used anything, any other features besides that. I know Jinda, you've been using Wave Terminal. I recommend it. What particular functions would you say would highlight it?
Well, what happened was I was looking for a terminal because I was kind of trying something out, and every time I type in a command, you're building on top of them, and you're building this big, long, giant list.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking for one that would kind of do it like they do it, where it was separated, like I could see what I was doing. Because I was trying to learn something, and it's sometimes when you're trying to learn something, it's really hard to go back and forth. And I was like, they have to have a terminal that does this. And for some reason, I found this one.
Okay.
And then, and this one does that. I couldn't really find very many others that really had like tabs and stuff that were easy to use and all this stuff. But this one has AI built into it, which I thought was kind of novelty and hilarious all at the same time. Which I actually did use a couple of times, and it actually worked, which I was shocked, but I mean, I was mostly looking for a terminal that would block out, my commands easy for me to find, and this was the one I hit upon.
I got it. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of neat.
So the way I used it was I had I want to make sure I got a command right before I sent it out, and so that I used the AI for that. It's very fast. I didn't look and see like what is it using to power that AI plugin? I should have looked that up.
ChatGPT, right?
Is it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think it's
This is a-
ChatGPT.
Yep.
Because it has your AI token, which is I think your API key,
Okay.
and then it has the model as GPT 3.5 Turbo, which is being retired. 3.5 is going the way of the dodo.
Wow.
Yeah. So they're probably gonna have to change that.
And they're probably using that because it's more relaxed with like usage. I'm guessing.
Mhm. That's why I heard about it was because people were like upset because apparently the 4 Lite version is much more restrictive.
Yeah. Did anybody have any hard time? Well, okay. So, let me roll this back. So when you installed it, what was your method of installation?
It was an app image. I did nothing.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm using the app image as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I tried using the app image and it did not work for me. I could not. I kept having to reset it, and
What did you use?
the app image.
No, I mean, what did you end up using?
Oh, I ended up using the deb on a Ubuntu distro box essentially.
Nice.
So that's how I got it to work. There looks like there's a bug with the OpenSUSE with that, so it doesn't work. So either the app image or the RPM didn't work for me. So it was a little more of a struggle to get going, I guess. And I'm not really sure why.
Yeah,
But-
app image. I don't think it's a lot of TLC in OpenSUSE because there's some concerns about app images, like the architecture itself used to deploy an app image is concerning to a lot of people. How it kind of just sprays things everywhere on your system, and there's no real accounting for it. So
I thought it kept it all as one bundle.
I guess it depends how it's how it's
not
deployed.
it's not a requirement that it's sandbox. So,
Yeah. And there's no real way to, like with snaps, they tell you a warning, like, hey, it's not confined in sandbox, so tash classical or classic install, and then they force you to put that command in, whereas app image is like,
I think we
True.
may have talked about it on here, but I have used App Image Launcher for a long time, but it hasn't been updated in literally years. They say they're working on a new version, but I don't know when and if it'll ever come out. But in the meantime, something called Gear Lever came out,
Yeah.
and it's pretty killer for
Yes.
app images. So
But it was a flat hub. It was on flat hub, wasn't it?
it's a
Yep.
flat pack, yeah. So
Yeah.
you can manage the app images. It stores them all in one place. You can set up the link in the menu. It'll tell you when there's updates. Like it's actually a really usable, and this is like, as far as I know, like early release of Gear Lever. So pretty cool. Yeah. So if you're dealing with app images and you want to have them be better integrated, that's a good way to do it.
was there any concern with you guys deploying a terminal from a company that has access to your host system? Did they have any FAQs or anything about that? Just curious.
Well, so they do talk about what telemetry they do take, and you can opt out of the telemetry. So they could be lying. That's a possibility. I would hope that they wouldn't lie about that. Now I used it just on a local machine. I didn't use, I mean, it can only be naughty if it's running, I suppose. So, but what's your specific concern? Because it's from a specific company.
Well, It's like a outside company, well, outside app at a terminal level. You have to register with the phone number, right?
No.
Or email, or you
Oh,
just
no.
oh
Nope.
sweet. Okay, I might be confusing with something else then. But yeah, so or at least they might have taken that off of a beta launch or something. But so yeah, having that kind of like an AI potentially on a host system sounds like almost like the makings of a sci-fi movie or some type of thing where it's like it kind of a signal gets phoned home and then bad things can happen. I was curious if that was in the back of anyone's head. That's been like a faint concern of mine. I haven't gone around to playing with it, but it's on my list. But there is something weird for me that gets me the ick a little bit to like not deploy a terminal-based AI system that yeah on my host system.
So Run with the Dolphin says app images just don't have all that depends in them. If OpenSUSE is missing something assumed to be installed, then you are out of luck, unless you can figure out what that is.
Yeah, and if you're missing something and it's not available, they're not going to be rushing to fix an app image for you. Like they're just app images are so low on their priority list to make that work. It's
Yeah, and I have in the past, like if you run an app image in the terminal, it'll tell you how it's failing. And then you can install those dependencies. I've done that before.
Yeah, I've had a few, like if they're really old, sometimes they don't work, or if the version of Linux you're using is really old. So there are like Dolphin saying, I mean, it's kind of assuming a lot, and doesn't really do a good job of error handling. So you're kind of like, it's a lot of times they won't even open, like it just won't do anything, and you're like, okay, that didn't work. But yeah, I
and also
mean,
removal when you remove it, like it doesn't like
are you sure you're thinking of app images?
Because yeah, app images is
pretty
just
sure.
one file.
Yeah, I mean, because you can tell it to create a desktop file. Like that is definitely one thing. Like GearLever, if you use that, you can have it create the desktop file so that it shows up in your menu. But app images really don't unpack themselves that I'm aware of. I mean, that's kind of the point, I think, is that it just sort of stays as one blob.
It's actually an ISO file that's just renamed app image.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I don't like using just like downloadable gzipped executables where you have to like put it in your file path and then usually change your like path itself, your path variable, and then you gotta, yeah, create a desktop file. Like that style of doing it is really kind of schlocky compared to like a package. And that's really why packages exist anyway. I mean, that's all they do is just put stuff in the right place. Um, or, they can also create services and stuff like that too. But, the convenience factor of having a package is nice. But yeah, app images, I don't know. And a lot of times I've only got maybe 3 or 4 things that I run as an app image, and I don't even use them that often comparatively. I mean, I tend to just do most stuff with Flatpak just because, but um, yeah, app image doesn't. That's why I'm so surprised about GearLever, because it's like app image doesn't really get a lot of love. Like there's no. You think about FlatHub, there's that. There's a central place, and like it's curated, and there's a lot of, software there, and like you could discoverability, and app images are usually just kind of like just sort of out there. There have been some attempts to create a store or like a central website, and I think there are some things, but they're just not. I haven't seen them well publicized, I guess. But yeah, app image. Wasn't there a distro that used app images? Like that was the way they packaged their software.
There was.
Isn't it like Nitrix or something?
I don't remember
Something weird like
what
that?
it was, but I remember. I think we talked about it. I think almost ad nauseum here at one point.
Yeah, and it was just so weird because it was like, really? You went with app images? Okay.
So I tried using the app image on a Linux Mint install that I had on the VM.
Mhm.
And when I double click on it, I think after I made it executable, that crashed the VM. So I don't know.
Wow.
So I don't know what happened with that.
Yeah, that's not a good sign.
That's awesome.
I don't I don't see that happen very often. It's interesting.
Yeah, I got a black screen and I couldn't do anything with that VM anymore. I had to shut it down.
Okay. Oh goodness. So so to what if like what is this really back to wave terminal like the AI is kind of like a thing, I guess everybody, I'm almost like blind to it at this point, like because everything has it. Um, so I don't even necessarily care about that part of it. But the terminal itself, I mean, is it because you can have because of the sidebar and you have like all of the ability to organize things? I know that it said you can like view images and there's some different like file handlers and things, maybe SSH type stuff. What is the secret sauce here that makes this like particularly attractive to something? And maybe I'm not hearing you, Jinda, whenever you're explaining it. Uh,
Well,
I
for,
don't.
for, for me, it had a really good history in it, like to go back to be able to see what I typed in. And it also
Okay.
broke up all the commands, like you said, it broke up all the commands in sections so I could scroll through what I was doing. And for someone who's trying to learn how to do something that's not familiar with something, it was easier to use. You know what I mean? Like when you're trying to type in a bunch of stuff and you're not familiar with some of the stuff. I found it easier to use. But this AI thing I thought was hilarious because, like you said, they're adding it to everything. To me, it's becoming to the point of ridiculousness. But
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I'm sorry. It's almost lipstick on a pig. Sure, you can do it, but do you really need it? But I
Yeah.
actually did use the AI. I know
Okay.
that sounds ridiculous. I used it just to type in a command to see, I was having trouble with something. I said, hey, well, I might as well try it. Let's see what happens. It did help a bit, but once again, I was just basically looking for a terminal that was, how to say this, a little more modern than just a command line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This has tabs in it. You can set up tabs. You can have HTOP constantly running, and you can switch back and forth to it all you want and things like that. And I was like, is there one out there? And this is the one I found. And once again, it having AI just to me made it just that much more funny.
It definitely does. It takes it further than just like tabs in a terminal. Because I mean, you think about
Right.
terminals, maybe you can have split terminals or tabs or, different stuff like that. But it is kind of neat how it parses out the commands and you could, copy them and use them. And so, I mean, I can see, especially if you're doing a lot of sort of command line administration where you've got to go back and run. I mean, my rudimentary way of doing it is just doing a history search and then grepping for the
Right.
thing that I ran, which I just have a shortcut, an alias for it, HS, and then, whatever I'm looking for. But I could see how this would be more, I guess, useful in that sense that, you can actually see. And then I wonder, so like I use, what is it on servers where I connect in and I go back into the same shell. It's already still open. I always forget the name
Tmux.
of it. Tmux, thank you. So I use Tmux a lot because I like to be able to go back and it can be like weeks between times that I'm connecting into a server. And so I like to see that like last state. And so I wonder with the connections and stuff, like how, but that's on the client side. That's not really on the server side. So I guess that's not going to make a difference. Um, yeah, yeah, I guess it's
It so what I like about it is it's kind of a new way of looking at the terminal. So typically with a terminal, when you do you input your command at the last line because it's just how it's been for ever. This you have it at the bottom, and then it kind of scrolls up on you instead, which I think is kind of neat. And then the fact that it has different workspaces you can jump to, which I mean, console has tabs, not a big deal. It's not like it's like revolutionary. You can use Tmux and switch between different pages too on there, so that's not revolutionary necessarily. But I thought the way it was laid out was very handy. And then what I find also very handy is the fact that I can utilize. I know it's like AI, whatever. I feel like the AI hype train has slowed down, thankfully. Do you notice that? It seems like it's not as talked about as much. I think we're done with it mostly. But I think it does have its use. And I think where I like to use it is, I can't remember exactly the syntax of a command or all the different little bits and pieces. So I can use an AI bot to input the command or talk to it, I guess, communicate with it about making sure I use the right, I do it correctly. And I find that that's an extremely handy tool to have. Now, whether or not, I'm kind of on the fence about whether or not I want to have it go out to ChatGPT with my commands, because I just don't know about that. But it's a nice handy tool. Now, as far as would I continue using this or not? I'm not sure yet.
So that's a good question, though, and something I should look at in the documentation, because it does say, AI-based URL. So I mean, you can run a lot of the Alpaca, like the local GPT for all. Like there's the local desktop versions of AI LLMs that you can run, the open source like Llama and different models, and if you can, and all of them include most of them include like a web API where you can actually hook in and call, to the model from another application. I wonder if this is modular enough to be able to literally just shove a different URL in there, like a local host API call, and then have it, just be able to use something that's local instead of going out and using something that's out in the cloud. Because I think that's really the future in a lot of ways, especially for people who care about privacy in the slightest bit. I mean, I don't know that companies are going to care necessarily, but I think for people that are, the fact that AI is becoming more and more easier to run locally, is requiring less resources in a lot of ways. And also, these Copilot PCs that are coming out that have the co-processors and the tensor chips and all that kind of stuff. Like maybe we get to a point where most computers just have the ability to run AI models locally without needing a gigantic GPU, with tons of memory, where it just becomes more of a default that you can run it just as an app. It's just another desktop app on your system. And because it's local, it's more responsive, it's more private, it just ends up running better. And even if you're like buying it from a company, still just running it locally on your system. Anyway, that would be neat if they were taking that kind of thing into consideration. I don't know how many people are doing that. I mean, I'm doing it just as a hobbyist, just play around with stuff, but
I have like Ubuntu subsystem for Linux box that has the Llama 3, or whatever the latest one is. And it's on a machine that has NVIDIA. It's like right there. And it's pretty cool. And it's terminal based technically. I could put a layer like a GUI on top of it. I didn't get around to it. But it doesn't like see my machine like a Linux host like Wave Terminal does. And I think that's where it's like pretty cool about that. The Wave Terminal concept is like it can do that. But with the Neuralink stuff with the NPUs, what they're calling it now, it's like I wonder how friendly it's going to be for like Linux machines. Like if I install Linux in a machine that has an NPU, will it be as easy to reverse engineer like the Asahi Linux stuff? Like,
yeah,
can they do that, or is it going to be kind of hard to do, and we're going to be behind a rock and a hard place with that?
My guess actually, we'll probably get it first, because most of the development's being done on Linux machines anyway. So all that stuff is gonna be built into the kernel, and it'll be upstream probably fairly quickly. That would be my guess. Now, I've been wrong before.
On a Windows machine, though?
Well, I don't know, Windows
on the Windows NPU?
I don't know about the Windows side, but on the Linux side, I think that neural processor unit is going to be very quickly.
Yeah, I guess it becomes, who's going to manufacture it?
Yeah,
I guess.
I can't imagine it's going to, I mean, if Asahi was pretty aggressive and Apple's not giving up an inch on any of that, where I think it's more likely that Microsoft might even play ball with, releasing some, even just like the basics of like how to communicate with the chip, so
That would
that
be awesome.
I mean, it sells more hardware for them.
But
I
it's
mean,
it's Intel and AMD that are going to be integrating those, not Microsoft. Microsoft is utilizing it; they're just setting the specs.
right, you're right. But I mean, in order to sell more
But
machines, they might just say there's no fundamental reason why we should lock this down and make it so that, unless it's the other way around and Microsoft says, well, we don't want, you know, we want it only to work with Windows. I don't know. I really don't know.
Pilot.
And that stuff's going to take a while to sort of filter down anyway. I mean, they're just now releasing them, aren't they? I mean, it's not even
Yeah,
like,
still pretty new.
yeah.
I'm
But I
not
do
gonna
love
lie,
the
I thought
idea
about
of,
it. I thought about getting those laptops.
well, I mean, I love the idea of it being like kind of like an M series chip, like
Mhm.
Apple Silicon, but being, Snapdragon and Qualcomm. So, I don't know. I think I like the fact that they're moving that direction. I was talking about this last week where it's like, I feel like there hasn't been any innovation in computer hardware in such a long time. Like we've been upping specs and adding
Yep.
cores and stuff like that, lowering TDP, stuff like that. But I mean, we really haven't like had like a major shakeup. And I feel like these ARM processors are a pretty big sidestep. Like that's a pretty major shift to have these like, chips with co-processors and low power and, just all the different cores, and like it's a really different change, substantial change to what we've seen for a long time. And even Intel comes out with what is it, Lunar Lake? No, not Lunar Lake. Is it Lunar Lake?
I
Is
don't
that
know.
what their new one is? That's supposed to be like like one of those Qualcomm chips.
more
That's
risk based or low power.
No. They have one that's like where it has performance cores and efficiency cores and the GPU cores and the tensor cores and like all that stuff's built in like a basically the equivalent of an Apple Silicon or a Qualcomm Snapdragon. I think it's
Could
called
be.
Lunar Lake. Maybe I'm
You might be right.
misspeaking.
Elder Lake.
Elder Lake. No?
Yeah, the Elder Lake is 12th gen.
No, I think it's the newest. Like they just
Oh, there's
announced
one
it.
after that.
Lunar
I
Lake.
think it's called Lunar Lake, yeah. And it's supposed to be their Intel's answer to Qualcomm and
Yeah.
Apple Silicon.
So
It's supposed to get around 20 hours of battery life.
sure.
Yeah.
I'm getting a name Raptor Lake.
So Lunar Lake claims ARM beating battery life, according to an article from Tom's Hardware.
And world's fastest mobile CPU cores, so it claims.
Yeah. And it will do your homework and make your toast every day.
Well, I've often wondered why Intel has like slept on mobile. What were they thinking? Like, Qualcomm.
Too many middle managers.
They tried those phones, remember? The ones that ran Intel chips? I think there was a Asus and I don't remember what other, I think something with a Z. I forget what company that was. I think there was like two phones they had Intel chips in them. But they didn't sell, so I guess they didn't go anywhere.
Oh, the Lunar Lake just came out on the 3rd of September. That's super
Yeah, no,
new.
it literally just came out.
Yeah, super new.
Yeah, it's supposed to be. Go ahead.
I thought about getting these Snapdragon laptops with Windows on it because it had some pretty decent reviews from Linus Tech Tips, and the fact that it's because of the architecture change, it is less of a target from a security standpoint. So like, because one of the big reasons why I don't run Windows is like how flaky it is on the security side. But yeah. Those two things alone, the crazy battery life plus the fact that it's a different architecture makes it less of an attack vector, was like two really compelling reasons for me to strongly consider it. I'm a cheapo, so I'm probably not going to do it.
Yeah, it's gonna have to trickle down. I'm not gonna be an early adopter just simply on price. I would get one if it wasn't so expensive, but they're not gonna be cheap.
Exactly.
and that's okay. But I also don't necessarily care about battery life because I just don't need it anymore. I did when I traveled. That would have been awesome. But the fact that it is silent is what's awesome for me. Like super lightweight and portable, really low wattage and low heat production, so needs almost no cooling whatsoever. And so you could have like a crazy thin and light laptop with, a small battery, very small thermal solution, and like have it be for most processes, especially like business processes, be like crazy fast.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be super great for gaming, but like I don't really care because it's not something I do. But it's still capable, which I think is also impressive that it's still capable of being able to run games, just not great. And then if you really cared, then just get one of the external enclosures, right? And get a USB-C external GPU enclosure, and then you can still rock your games if you needed to. Anyway, it's a cool direction. I'm glad to see that there's like some kind of movement, some sort of like actual innovation,
Yeah, I mean,
imagine this now with I can never remember what's the modular laptop maker that you like? Framework. Imagine a framework with, these types of chipsets and
Well, yeah. I mean, when it's available, I'll be throwing it in here and going at it, with this machine or this.
I wonder what because I know some of these things, some of the apps are going to be native, but a lot of them are still going to have to run through a layer, virtualization layer. Like, does it really matter? Is it going to be a big deal? Do you see like a major difference? I haven't heard a lot of people.
It's an issue for like certain things. Yeah, when it's like big name things, it's like big company things, it's okay, which is a really good start, But there's those niche products that still people use, and it's still an issue. So it's like really your mileage will vary. If you're like in the Microsoft ecosystem a lot, you should be fine. But it's everything outside of that gets hit or miss. I know Slack is fine, I heard. And I think the video editor, what's the big name one? I forgot the name of
Adobe Premiere.
Windows. Adobe Premiere.
Sona Vega.
And I think the other one, not Vega, the other one, it's like it's choppy.
DaVinci Resolve?
Not DaVinci Resolve. It's another big one.
Oh, okay.
I'll look it up. But yeah, it's a major video editor where it's like the performance is great, but the feature sets don't.
Those are probably pretty short-term issues.
I agree. Yeah. Matter of time.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine if there's enough market penetration from any of this hardware that any of the software vendors are going to jump on board pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because it seemed like for quite a while everything was sort of converging. Like MIPS died and HP Unix died or PA-RISC died. All these different things died, and it was going x86. And I think that's kind of when things started slowing down, I think, in the innovation. And now that there's competition, even with AMD, the Apple Silicon, and then the Snapdragon Qualcomm here, that it looks like, there'll be fragmentation again, but I think it'll be fine. It'll be good for the, it's part of the ebbs and flows, I think.
That's actually a good point. So the one really super positive thing about x86 is it a standard that bridges across any of the Intel and AMD chips, no matter which system it's in, versus now you're going to have these disparate ARM systems where Snapdragon does their thing and Intel's going to do their thing, and Apple Silicon does their thing, and they're all ARM, but they're not going to be like 100% consistent. You know what I mean? Their instruction sets are going to be different.
So it'll be interesting to see.
So that could be a pain in the ass if you're a software vendor. You can imagine like needing to, I don't know how different they are, like how much of a change it is. Maybe it's very simple to just say, okay, spit it out.
I think the issue is, I think if it's meant to run on ARM, it will run. It may not be optimized for all the different instructions in the cores because there's no standard as to what instructions have to be in there. And then also how to boot the machine. Like you can't use a Pine 64 ARM image on a Raspberry Pi, or you can't even use a Pine 64 with a Pine Pro, I believe. If I'm not, I could be wrong on that one. Never mind. Ignore that one. Drop that one off. Cut it out. But they're not compatible in between. So I think that's the one positive of the of Intel and AMD is that you have that sort of consistency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Even Moore's Law wasn't a thing for a while. Remember, I mean, when we were younger, it was like every 2 years, if you had a chip that was 2-3 years old, it made a huge difference.
Yeah.
Like a noticeable difference. And I feel like anymore, if you have a system that was built in the last 10 years, it doesn't really, I mean, you could have a 3rd, 4th gen I-series chip and it's not going to be so slow that you can't use it. You know what I mean? It may be slower, but
yeah. And I mean, really, when it comes down to like office work, how fast do you need to type, really?
That's really what it comes down. And you know what? And I swear a lot of times, like when I was provisioning stuff, especially for like executives, it was like fashion. You know, well, I need the new laptop. You know, I don't want the. Well, is there anything wrong with it? No. I just want a new one. Like, well, why? Well, because I want a new one. Okay, fine. That's how I ended up with a stack of ThinkPads in my office.
Makes sense. So I guess
That never died. But sorry, go ahead.
No, say no, we went on the AI tangent and CPUs and everything else, but kind of bring it back to waveterm. For those that, so I guess prophetic. I understand your concerns about having a basically it's not code that's audited by a community, so that's largely your concern from what I'm gathering anyway. So you have to trust them. You have to the goodwill of the company essentially, and then they're I don't know if you looked at the FAQ at all, but it'd be interesting to see what their monetization model. So it's probably venture capital funded, and that's probably another reason potentially to have some concern, because what are they going to do with that? How are they going to make their money? But they will have some sort of subscription model for like an opt-in additional services and whatnot. So I don't know if that's going to what's going to come back from that. I don't know. The one feature I will say is kind of cool is you can pre-authenticate like your super user if you want to. That's actually a neat feature. That's important to you. Yes, Eris.
So as it says, we are committed to offering Wave free to all developers, free as in speech, free as in beer. Next year, we plan on introducing opt-in features for teams collaborating, sharing, which will require a paid subscription. In general, anything that runs locally on your machine, using your own resources will be free. Anything that uses our servers and our resources will be paid.
I think that's a very sensible way to look at that. Like, this is how we can give you something for free, is that we don't have to have it ongoing, chewing up our resources. We'll develop it, but then if we're going to host these features for you, then we expect you to pay for them.
Yep.
Seems pretty reasonable.
So anyway, I thought it was interesting. It'll be no, I use the fish shell primarily. So that's not an option with this. There's a bash and Z shell and so forth, but yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I just prefer fish. It doesn't really matter really. I mean, I use bash just as well, but I like the colors in fish. So yeah. So I guess it'll be interesting to see, like, at the end of the year, how many of us are still using it. If it's just Jinda, then it's just Jinda. So I guess
I just thought it was so cool. I don't know why.
No, I get it. It is neat. It is neat for sure. All right. Anything else?
Reminded me of a really stupid joke. What do you call a fish with no eyes?
Not sure what.
That was that's a joke from what was his name? really silly comedian. He always wore these like rose tinted glasses. He died of like a drug overdose. Mitch Hedberg. That was one of his stupid like one line jokes. If you've ever heard of him. Anyway, I remember telling my daughter that joke when she was like 3, and she just stared at me like I was stupid. Which is, if you're telling a dad joke, that's exactly the reaction you're looking
Yeah, that's
for.
what you're looking for.
There you go. There's your humor for the night.
A good dad joke is always a good thing.
Get your kids angry if they're like into the Pokemon stage. Just like mispronounce the Pokemon on purpose, every single one, and it will drive them up the wall.
Or calling him Pokemon, and then
Pokemans?
yeah,
The Pikachu's?
and then when your kid tries to school you on the different types, and then you look at like a Grimer and you say, you know what, that's just a dumb type. I'm gonna call that dumb type, and I'm right.
That's funny. Playing with fire there, buddy.
Yeah. Or another one that I like to do too, because they were recently in a Pokemon phase, is I like to say, what's the most legendary of Pokemon? And I'll say, well, Charizard, of course. He's the most legendary of all the Pokemon. And he's not a legendary Pokemon. I says, no, he's not a legendary, but he is legendary. See, there's a difference.
Yeah. Guess I think I'm with them.
It's like, nobody knows what a Mewtwo is, but they know what a Charizard is.
It's amazing. I know literally nothing about Pokemon. I know the name Pokemon, and I don't know anything else. Pikachu. Pikachu's the only
you
thing
know
I know.
Pikachu though. Everybody
That's
knows
it.
Pikachu.
Yeah.
Which is not a starter Pokemon, so I don't know what happened there.
It is
It's,
for the yellow game.
yeah, with one.
Gen 1, right?
Yeah, only with Pokemon,
Pokemon
Yellow.
Yellow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
on the Game Boy. Eric, you were too old for Game Boy, I think.
My friend had one, and I played Tetris on it. That was it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of random things just to throw out there, open mic night will be next week. So if you would like to join us for an open mic night, it's just, whatever subject you'd like to, throw out there that's tangentially open source and tech related. That's cool. So I like open mic nights because my preparation is just whatever articles I was reading during the week that I thought were interesting.
AI paranoia might be on that list.
AI paranoia will definitely. Do you run a local AI anything on your computer? Like
I use it all. Yeah, I got a local one, and then I use I just got done turning off my subscription for Gemini.
Okay.
Because it was hot garbage.
But it is terrible, isn't it?
Yeah. The paid and the premium garbage. I was really excited about its use case in spreadsheets. I was super stoked about that. But yeah, no, it's really, I guess what it comes down to is like the timing, right? Because all these things are going to mature. They're trying to rush to market to just grab whatever they can get, and then hopefully you stick around for it to mature and be awesome. And
the question is really going to be, can it be done ethically, or are we going to have problems?
Yeah, we already have problems. I think there's some lawsuits that went in favor of some artists already when for one of the models. I think Claude got hit with some cases where they actually have to come up with something with artists and content, because these large language models these companies are just scooping up crazy scraping of the internet, and a lot of artists are getting lobbed together of their work.
Very, very much an ask for forgiveness and not permission situation. Yep.
Microsoft said they will cover developers up to a certain dollar amount if they got sued for using AI in their code. Like they would say, till
it becomes more widespread, and then all of a sudden that's not going to be the case.
Exactly. But when they're willing to
get that in writing.
Yeah, well, they'd actually put it in writing that they capped it to a certain amount. Like if you do get sued, we'll do something. And that's that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. But that goes to show you how desperate they are. And remember, I don't know if you guys remember, I think year and a half ago, maybe 18 months ago, Google was getting a lot of flack for Google search results be crapping out, not being as good as it used to be. Well,
Yeah.
do you know why? Because all these AI models are like using Google to feed
Hmm.
their data. So Google's like, no, we'll use it for our product. So if you saw a downgrade in Google search results, it's because they're trying to protect the data pools for themselves.
I think what's interesting too is how a lot of these AI models, like they lie. And then if you check them on the lie, they're like, oh, you're right, I was wrong. And then
Yeah.
like it's a little bit.
Yeah, don't you love how they say that? It's like, oh, well, thank you for pointing that out to me. It's like, I'm not here to train you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys are LinkedIn a lot. I tend to go like almost every day. That we should all follow each other on LinkedIn if you have a public account. But they have these like expertise submissions, and they do a prompt question, and they hope that you answer. And you're just feeding OpenAI and various other partnerships they have to get that data, because they're looking for sophisticated answers to nuanced questions so that it can just learn off of that, and all these LinkedIn experts feel good about whatever badges they have for answering the most questions. So I kind of joked around saying we should just put a whole bunch of nonsense in some of the answers just to throw off the data models, but who has time?
Yeah, I'm not on LinkedIn very much, but I'm on there. I check it every once in a while. There's only some people I know that I only communicate through LinkedIn. So, and then I think that Microsoft can afford to cover these developers' costs into getting sued because of all the people they laid off. So they're good to go.
Oh yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah, interesting times we live in for sure.
Yeah.
No doubt.
The strawberry model came out not too long ago. Supposedly, it's doing really, really well. But
What's the strawberry model?
it's like the latest OpenAI version.
Oh,
So instead of ChatGPT 4, it's called Strawberry 01 or something like that, or 01. And it's I think it's currently in preview, but even the preview version that was released, I think earlier this week or late last week, has been like doing like super well on those like tests. A fellow YouTuber who does like a standard 10 question test and asked AI services like random questions like, what if I did this with this marble and I flipped it over and put it in the microwave, like, and do these weird scenarios, and it got every question right except for one. Then it caught the nuance too, and it kind of gives you the thinking too. It gives you a drop down if you want to see what the thinking and the reasoning is. So it was pretty supposedly it's like best in class, but it's like a cat and mouse game. Like Claude was just kicking butt. The Claude version, like the latest versions, I forget, Sonnet 2 or 3, I forget. And yeah, it's cat and mouse type thing. So we'll see if someone else comes around and takes the lead again. But
yeah. It's I saw Eris here. Didn't not Eris. Sorry, Anna Rita is concerned about the AI taking jobs and so forth. And I think that's a possibility, but I think there'll be new jobs. Just like there are fewer factory floor jobs, but there are more technician jobs, automation jobs, engineering jobs. So it'll just shift. It's nothing to be worried about. Maybe it is something to be worried about. I wear optimism glasses.
well, I remember when the whole .com bubble came up, everyone thought that the like all these things were gonna like go away, like greeting cards and thank you cards and birthday cards, and everything would be replaced with e-cards. And like we still have gift cards. I was going through some stuff from some of the mail today, and like people, our medical industry still uses fax machines or even a virtualized version of fax machines. It's like People are very. It's really hard to predict the future. Even Sam Altman, who was like the head of OpenAI, says it's nearly impossible to predict the future. Like it's going to look like something like this, but like for people who was like really hardcore about this is what it's going to be like, take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah. If you ever watch old Computer Chronicles videos, like
Oh, they're the
shows,
best.
yeah. But what's fun is how the experts predict the future. They're
I
all
love
wrong.
it.
Every one of them has been wrong.
Really wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anytime an
Flying
expert tells
cars.
what's that? Oh yeah, flying
Flying
cars.
cars.
Yeah, Back to the Future. You missed
Yeah,
that one.
right.
Peter Thiel has
Yeah.
a great quote. It says, he's like a futurist, and he's always saying he's known for this quote saying, we were promised flying car in the 1950s. We had like the cities of the future, like expos and stuff like that. And we were promised flying cars, and then we got Twitter. It's
Yeah.
like,
I'm okay without flying cars. I mean, we have tens of thousands of people die every year in this country, and people looking at their smartphones, and that's on flat ground. I can't imagine
yeah.
people whizzing around a couple hundred miles
Okay.
an hour.
Now, do you believe in like social Darwinism?
Not whenever they
Oh.
slam into me.
We don't want to be a casualty of their Darwinism.
when they
Yeah.
put their car through your roof of your house.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sure, they sure are stupid, but they also
I think
that effect bleeds over
Ripple
into the rest
effect.
of us.
Darwin ripple effect.
I think
And the flying cars isn't going to work.
I think the only thing I
No.
would just ask is that I could have a flying DeLorean. I think everyone else I know, but for me,
Just hover. We don't have to fly, just hover.
well, just like on these country roads, you have to go west and then or east and then north. If I could just go,
Little curve there.
Pythagorean
Just little-
theorem, anyway, take the c
Tell you what,
squared.
we'll get you one that is like the sand speeder, where it'll just be on a pole, like off of a truck, and then
Oh,
we'll
yeah,
drive
yeah.
you around,
Oh, I like that idea. Yeah.
and you can pretend.
Well, underground tunnels is picking up some steam
Like
with Elon Musk company.
in the Boring Company. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hasn't there
That's,
been the one in Vegas for years, and it goes like 5 miles an hour, and you have to like take one of his cars? I've heard it's like a really dumb thing, like it doesn't actually work.
No, I don't know about the Vegas one, but I know there's some stuff in California they're starting to do.
I think if you listen to him tell you, then yes, it's probably the most amazing thing in the world. But for the rest of us that actually just like, I'm so over Elon Musk at this point. Like when I saw that he's going to be the world's first trillionaire, I'm like, really? That idiot's going to be the first trillionaire? Great, that's what we need.
I like him.
I want
I
to
go to the
very low
stars.
respect for him.
Can I just because I'm purely curious, and the last thing I want to do is argue with Eric because he's a smart guy and he's probably smarter than a lot of us here. But what is the like top like 2 or 3 specific things that get you teed off that about Elon Musk, like that really gets your blood going? Because I don't understand the what it does to people.
I think I really think there is a moral problem when one person can have so much wealth. I think it concentrates an amount of power that makes them more or less untouchable. I mean, yes, of course, a government can still, arrest him, I guess. But I mean, at this point, like he pretty much can do whatever he wants. And what I've seen is that he tends to get weirder and weirder and weirder as time goes on. And I think it kind of scares me because it's like you have this person who started out with, I think, some pretty solid, fundamental concepts of like what he saw the world as and like how he was going to use his money to do certain things. And I'm not sure I see him staying in that lane anymore. I think he's gotten a little wacky on me, and I don't like, and it's not just him. I think all billionaires in general. Again, I think it's kind of a moral thing for any one person to have that much wealth and that much power is kind of like a really vulgar, grotesque sort of thing.
Mhm.
But of course, I'm not a billionaire, so I can't really say it. I'm very much speaking from my side. I think, you get to a certain amount of wealth and privilege, and like, I think it's kind of enough. You don't, because what do you do at that point, right? I mean, I think a
Yeah.
lot of these people just find ways to make even more money, and the only way, in most cases, you can, find more is to take from someone else, and that's essentially what I think happens, is circumventing laws and, again, best practices and things that are put in place that the rest of us can't possibly do, that someone with that type of wealth and privilege can circumvent without a second thought.
So
and I think that's kind of what bothers me the most.
I think I agree with you that there's definitely, like, some comments in the chat here. I think some that are very reasonable and some that maybe aren't. But I think for me, the reason I don't dislike him, and I actually in the past I've been indifferent. I didn't really care. But anytime I notice, like, when there's like a hate generated toward anybody, and it could be literally anybody. Sorry about that. Anytime there's hate that I hear, like, generated, like, that's really focused on somebody, I immediately, like, pump the brakes. I want to know, like, why do people not like this person? It could be anybody, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, it's like immediately.
If it's a personal attack, then I totally agree with that.
But
and I think that anyone, yeah.
So just real quick. So the reason, like, I'm not, like, I don't think he's a particularly, like, good man necessarily. I don't think he's any different than he's been in the past when he was a hero to a lot of people. It's just like, it's a really quick, like, he was a hero, then all of a sudden he's not, and I'm not sure why. But anyway,
yeah, I don't know when that happened.
Yeah,
I don't know when that.
And then, but, like, there was a disparaging term, like, directed toward him that I don't think was totally baseless, and I don't really understand it, because, like, I'm not going to say it because I don't want to say it. But there's different kinds of billionaires out there. There's ones that I think, like, want to control you, and ones that want you to be free. And I look at things like Bill Gates, who has been very, like, wanting to control people, versus Elon Musk, who hasn't, who's actually been more of an advocate of, like, making
Freedom.
Our species multiplanetary as opposed to single planetary. There's nobody else working on that. And it's like, I think that if we could go to the stars, I think he's our best shot at it. I don't trust Neuralink at all. I think that's extremely frightening, because then the things you could do with Neuralink, I think it's extremely frightening. So, like, I don't know. I look at, like, his actions.
It's a mixed bag.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag. But, like, you have some people say, like, oh, stop having kids, and then you have, like, Elon Musk that says, have more kids. We need more people, because in order for us to have these technologies, we need to have people that are actually going to support these technologies. So I look at one, say, who's talking about, like, life and freedom and becoming multiplanetary, and who's basically just saying, oh, we're all going to die and people are bad. So that's kind of like the way I look at it, those two things. And also, yeah, I think that's a good point. Like, a lot of populations are collapsing now, and it's really, really very concerning. And so it's just like, I think that, maybe, maybe I'm just not reading the same things, other people are, but, like, I don't know. I don't have, like, I can't put my finger on a reason to hate him other than throw some, maybe he says untrue things. That's fine. I don't know. A lot of people say untrue things. Maybe I
guess the better way to characterize it is it's not hate. I don't hate anyone. I mean, I hate very few people on this planet. I don't trust him.
But being billionaires isn't by itself a bad thing, in your opinion, or is it?
It is. It is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So,
I think it can be. I think because in order to get
it can be, or it is. That's a thin line.
I don't know of any billionaire that made billions without hurting people getting there. Let's put it that way.
Okay,
Sure.
gotcha.
That makes sense.
I think in order to accumulate that much wealth, you have to step on people.
Gotcha.
It is the way it is, and whether that's just capitalism and the nature of it, or because that's really
so,
fundamentally, I think a lot of it is capitalism forces businesses to behave in a certain manner. I mean, legally, businesses have to operate in a way that is aggressive and destructive, simply
Not always,
because
though.
they have to.
That's not always true.
If you're a for-profit corporation, your duty is to your shareholders and growth.
I think maybe with, like, public, but, like, if you're talking about, like, small business, especially, like,
public. That's exactly what I'm saying. Public corporations, yes.
But like privately held companies, well, that's a whole different discussion there. but like privately
Right.
held companies, like I know a lot of businesses in the area, like if they can't handle the business, they'll recommend it to their competitors all the time. I know
Oh
like
no, small business. See, this is the thing. Small
Small to
business.
mid, yeah.
yeah.
You
There's a
hear
different scope.
politicians say this. This is like one of their favorite tropes is to say small businesses build America, right? And what's the first thing they do is they give to corporations and leave small business out of the loop usually.
Yep.
That's just kind of how that works. And it's so they're
Right.
glad handing and placating and saying small business is so important. And I agree with you. My favorite jobs in my entire life have been working for small companies. When you work either one level below or alongside the owner of the company, and you can actually have an impact, or you feel like what you're doing makes a difference. And you're right, they're hyper local usually, and they're part of the community, and everything they do meshes with that community and brings everybody up. It's the corporations, that I don't want to turn this into a whole like political or philosophical thing, but I mean that's
But
my
it is
thinking on
tech
billionaires.
adjacent because
Yeah.
like the billions are made on the backs of technology, like and even like
Right.
our cell phones, like the supply chain behind our cell phones. It's sad, the child labor, the abuse, the slave
Mhm.
labor to get
Yep.
the lithium, to
Right.
get and so like it is a tough thing, and I think we all have, I guess, some blood on our hands when we think about the cap that we're forced to have due to the nature of capitalism. Not just billionaires, but all of us share that. I think it sounds like from you, Eric, when you're a billionaire, you just turned it up a notch, like to an X degree when it comes to
Yeah.
like stepping on that and that kind of that makes sense. I think for me with Elon was more like I know someone was like complaining about him like in my old job. I was like they were being really negative, like super negative. And I was
Oh
like,
yeah, no, I think he's kind of a really interesting person. I mean, I think he does
I like that
for
he's
being
open sourced a
someone.
lot of things. Like a lot of his technology
Well, I
is
mean,
all open sourced.
you look at a lot of people in that position, and they don't ever want to even speak to the press or anything. And
yeah,
I mean, you got to give him credit. Like he's out there. I mean, he
yeah,
he will engage people. I mean, he says some kind of dumb things, I think, at times. Like I still
Always
think
has.
The whole X advertiser thing where he was just kind of like, well, F them. And then they're gonna sue the advertisers because they're not advertising there anymore. It's just like that is so asinine. You know what I mean? Like, so there's some things that they do that he does, or things that
yeah.
they're done in his name. But then you look at something like SpaceX and Tesla and like all these endeavors that he's had where he's pushed technology forward and done things like what was your reaction the first time you saw one of those booster rockets land itself?
It
I
was
mean, it was
amazing.
just like,
I mean the satellite
what
internet
the
stuff,
hell did I just watch? Like,
the satellite
you know,
internet thing, like that's a huge one.
well,
Uh,
I'm a
The
little, I'm a
music in
little,
space was pretty great too. Sorry to interrupt.
No,
no, you're
it's
good.
smart.
You're good. Yeah, Skylink,
Starlink.
I'm a little concerned about Starlink, sorry, that I'm a little concerned about how they can just deploy these satellites and they do sort of cloud the view and the
a
vision to
strong, yeah,
space. And it's kind of like it's very much that, well, because we have the means to do it, because we have the money to get regulations passed and lobby, we can just do these things. Now, that said, if I lived somewhere where that was my only option for decent internet, you better believe I'd probably be paying for it. So
for Ukraine,
yeah, I mean,
if
there
he's
is no,
donated that
like you
for
said,
that.
everybody has a little bit of culpability, right? I mean, nobody is like, unless you're a hermit living in a cave in the woods somewhere, you're,
Hmm.
Yeah.
you're not, so yeah, I
But
don't
no,
have any hate. I don't have any
yeah,
vitriol. I just do think that when you concentrate that amount of wealth, you really start to sort of bastardize and perturb like everything that is the norms of society no longer apply to those people.
yeah.
And it
You
just sort of
create a,
like, go ahead,
Yeah.
I
Swift.
think
It's
that you,
but
I think that what you're saying is that you create a monster when you centralize that much resources on one person, because it's been said that absolute power corrupts absolutely, and so you have that situation where a person's above and beyond having what they need, or even having what would be understandable as wants. But you're at the point where you just have this, oh my goodness, money, where there's no, I mean, you could buy a country.
Consequence. Yeah.
Well, and that's just it. I mean, you say, how much do you need to live? And live better than 99% of the people in the world and still have so much money left over that you could probably feed people, you could fix genuine problems, you could like take that money and do something really good for it. But instead, there's this like possessiveness, the Gollum, my precious, kind of like I have to sit on my hoard like a dragon kind of thing. And it's just, that's the grotesque part of it to me, is it just seems a little, self-serving.
I think also too, like it's where you're coming from, Eric. Now that I think I got a better take on where you stand is like, especially because he's so vocal and he's like out there, like you said, he becomes prime target. So when he says something stupid, it sounds really stupid. And when he says something good, it may get kind of outshined with the previous ripple effect of stupid thing he said. So I take it as a mixed bag, but now I hear you loud and clear now.
Yeah, and again, it isn't that I don't know him as a person. He might be like the most genuinely wonderful person to spend time with. I have no idea. And that's why I don't hate people, because I don't know these people. I mean, when you hate someone and you don't know them, I think that's so disingenuous to just say, well, I hate this person. So, I mean, how the hell would you even know?
I think also like that's not like the valuation of wealth is because there's like realized gains and unrealized. Like a lot of his wealth is unrealized. So he doesn't actually. It's all on paper, so it's actually doesn't actually mean anything.
One bad stock weekend or during a weekend he's wiped out. Right. Yeah, or that's another thing too.
Or one other like bad podcast interview where he's doing something illegal with substances and he can plummet a stock and then get mad. Anyway, so there's all that. So but I think the thing though that I really appreciate about him is the fact he's not a perfect person. I don't think he's not God. He's just a guy. He's just a smart dude. But I think that the fact that he's open sourced a lot of technology, so any of the companies can use it. He's done like with SpaceX. He's doing more for less compared to like what Boeing's doing, and Boeing's failed. Their space capsule didn't make it. And then also the fact that he's saying he wants to make our species multiplanetary. I think that's a great usage. That's a great usage of funds. And will it be successful? No, I think probably a lot of people are going to die in the process, just like people died going to the New World.
That's right.
It's dangerous. Life is dangerous, and But I mean, the thing is, like, he's the only one that's actually really saying, giving us options.
You have to try. You have to try.
And I don't know. I hope for that, and I just don't. Anyway, we got to get to Ben and his what's going on here. Ben, before we keep talking about, I don't know what we were just talking about.
Lanky Ben.
I have no idea if he's even still awake.
I'm still here.
Mr. 6.5 feet.
Right. So StormOS,
guys.
You got an update on StormOS. You got Ricky here. You've got a Rick here.
I was going to say hi, Ricky.
And you got, what else we got? I don't know. We got lots of things. So, what do you got to say?
Well, why don't I let the team start this one off?
Well,
so before you get into this, Ricky, I'm going to preface this. So, we three guys as the team talked about it, and I'll let Ricky make the announcement first, and then we'll have a round robin about it.
Well, basically the major announcement is as of the next version of StormOS, we have made a unanimous decision that XFCE will no longer be the default desktop environment going forward.
Ricky, bring down your mic volume a little bit, real quick.
What?
Bring down your
mic a little.
Bring down my mic? Okay, hold on a minute.
Yeah, but like he said while he's adjusting that, he's right. XFCE is no longer it's still going to be an option, but it's not going to be our main flagship version anymore. It's going to be, and Nate, you're going to love us for this,
already do.
KDE 6. We're going KDE as the main desktop now, and we are putting XFCE as the secondary going forward. So, Nate, I hope you're happy about that. And we are going to have a screenshot posted post show of what we're going to have as the default. Same banner. They're not going to be called StormOS XFCE and KDE anymore. They're all under one banner now, one name, one code base, everything. So yeah, it's going to be the same thing going forward, etc. And we've just finally put a stamp and our foot down on the second version. There's not going to be 3. There's not going to be a dozen-ass versions anymore. We're going to have just 2 going forward, guys. We're not going to have a Gen 2, etc. We're only going to have 2. As of today, we're going to have the Arch version and a Linux from scratch build. That's it. We're not going to riddle ourselves with a slew crazy crap load of versions. So, Ricky and I have been working tirelessly on the LFS version the past few days. And after this, we're going to, work on that. But here's the thing, guys. We're going to finish the Arch version first, get that beta version of it out of the way, and the LFS version will be an afterthought. We're not prioritizing that just yet, but we're gonna work on that somewhat after the show too. So,
but if I may also say something, after we get done with the StormOS with the StormOS beta, after we push that out, we're not gonna immediately work on the LFS version right away. We are going to take a small hiatus just to get ourselves recharged and rejuvenated. This way we don't run ourselves into the ground like we did the last time.
Right, exactly. We're gonna take like a few days, week hiatus, just to get our juices flowing again, get ourselves back in order, like he said, and then we're going to continue work on the LFS build because we're going to do these both monthly, but we're not going to do them both at the same time. That's not going to be, because we don't want to give ourselves burnout and lose track, etc. So,
Is there a reason why the Arch is going to be a stopgap to LFS? Why not just go LFS and just
that's a
abandon
good
the Arch?
The distro's goal ever since its inception has been to bring new users over to the world of Linux. And, the problem with LFS is, yes, we can do it that way, but,
it would be too time consuming.
Yes, because LFS, we are using Crux's package utils as the package manager. And writing package builds for that is going to be such a time-consuming process and etc. So, we do already have a good number of pre-built packages that we can build, etc. But it's LFS is a massive headache to build as it is, and
so what's the benefit of going with LFS then? Not just stick with Arch then if it's easier?
Right, I think you guys might be a little bit more of the ones to explain that.
I mean, here's the thing. Ever since, StormOS's inception, our main goal is to not only bring new users over to Linux, but make a easy as all get out version of Arch Linux that a new user can basically can get all set up, ready to go, and that's pretty much our goal, is just to make Arch Linux much easier.
And the same with our LFS build is, to attract as many people as we can to the platform with, something, boom, click, done, And that's our goal with both versions, is to bring as many people from various platforms to our platform. That's our goal, plain and simple. So, and we don't want to be confined just to one code base. So that's sort of how we're doing it, and We're
Mhm.
giving people more than one option. That's all we're doing. We're not trying to.
But I will also add this, and I can't stress this enough. LFS is LFS. I can't stress this enough, Ben, and you've heard me say this before. LFS is not for the new user. It's meant for the power user.
Right. So this option will be for those that want to experience LFS, but they, they want to, try something pre-built before going into the documentation version of it. That's the main goal with that one. Is to give people a starting point, but not to discourage from their learning of LFS at all. We're not trying to nab them from that experience. So.
No.
But, that's Leo. Oh god. But
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
So when are you going to have something for us to dabble with?
Pretty soon, hopefully. The Arch build, we're almost ready with that actually. We've got the KDE build almost ready to go. We're gonna be we've got a few tweaks to do with the panels and things for the XFCE build. We have to fiddle around. I've got the KDE package list pretty much ready to go. Right now, I just am migrating everything over to GitLab from GitHub because GitHub has been down recently with their Git pushes. Why, I don't know, but my buddy Jonathan has been having that same problem, so it's not unique to us. So it's just been a real pain in the neck to get our GitHub synced up. But hopefully we'll get that sorted soon. But for right now, we're just piggybacking off of GitHub or GitLab, I should say. So we're doing that for now until we can get back on GitHub and get.
Have you guys heard of cloud native operating systems?
No.
Not necessarily, no.
So have you heard of the project called Bluefin or Aurora?
No.
You might, if you're dabbling with like GitHub and GitLabs and all that stuff like that, you may want to take a look at how they deploy and build their machines, especially for the Arch version, because they take a lot of the heavy lifting out of the way, and you become, it makes it a lot easier to build on top of an OS and then constantly test and stream things, as opposed from a classical way of building an OS or building on top of an OS that you may end up liking. I can introduce you some folks who might make the tool, because here's the thing: the tooling is what makes it really difficult for building an operating system. Doing a cloud version of cloud DevOps like philosophy on to build on top of something has had a lot of really benefits in terms of like building things and testing things and rolling back things when things don't work. So you might find some interest in that.
I have another suggestion too, and this is just me, but
what
there's some other options out there too, because they have a build service that you can build all these things.
For OpenSUSE,
Well, actually, it'll build for everything.
A lot of distros use that. Yeah. So if you're not doing the cloud version,
So
definitely.
So
talk about that.
So what you're saying is the OpenSUSE people will have a service that builds distros?
Yeah, OBS.
Okay.
You can even use their Kiwi to build your ISO as well.
Oh, really?
And you want to bake in some, if you want to bake in some automated QA, that's some icing on the cake.
Yep. So they can actually do testing before you release it too. It's all part of the open build service system.
For both versions, because that might save us a lot of headache.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah,
yeah.
but you can even
You'll
build
be
package-
learning a lot to get to that point, but like
Yeah.
once you learn it, oh my gosh, you're gonna be saving
For
hours.
sure.
because you can build it for Arch. I don't know if I don't think Linux from scratch, probably not, but for Arch, Debian, Fedora,
Yeah, Debian, yeah.
you can build for everything. And then
Okay.
it'll do the tests, make sure that it builds successfully, and like give you reports and everything else. And then,
Okay.
but it just because I mean, I know you've been working really hard on these different things, and you're like spreading yourself a little thin with like the different distribution targets, and then basically the Open Build Service can do all of that for you.
Okay.
Just trying to eliminate some jobs here, so that if you have to kick out Ricky, you got. I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding.
Oh God. All right. Well, yeah, we'll look into the OpenSUSE build service and see what we can get out of it. Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's a good option to consider. Yeah, because we've been doing it through Arch ISO and a custom build GUI thing, and we'll look into adding the OpenSUSE build thing. Yeah.
Well, just check it out. Some people just do like some packages for it. They use a repo. Use it as a custom repo, and
Yeah.
they do more with it. So
Yeah, we do have a custom repo. It's just we haven't found a better way to do this, but we'll look into that. Yeah.
cool. Well, all right. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for that update. And we do have to.
Hopefully, we'll have a more conclude. Yeah.
Yeah, we do have to get to last call here.
All right.
So thank you very much. We're already 2 minutes late.
No worries.
So just real quickly.
Hopefully, for you guys to test out soon.
Yeah, it'd be great. So thank you very much for being here and talking about Wave Terminal. Although I think I was to kind of stall a little bit there in the beginning, in the middle, with talking about AI and all the scary things that does. And then I think some face.
Has anyone noticed Wave Terminal? It's not. I open it and I get a blank window on it. I've tried a couple of different versions in the AUR. I'm on Arch, and all I get is a blank window.
I don't know. I use the app image. No, I use a deb. I use a deb in Ubuntu and DistroBox. But anyway, so thank you very much.
Since that was mentioned, I thought it was interesting that they actually offer a Arch package, which most people don't.
For what?
Wave Terminal.
There's an Arch package.
Yeah. So, Eric, I'm sure you're anxious to get out of here, but what exciting things are you doing lately?
Not much really. Still been fighting COVID and feeling kind of chewed up. So I'm participating in stuff, but I'm not really doing a lot of production. And yeah, it's been a tough go of it for better part of a month now. So I'm just trying to get through it and get back on track. So
then I got to say, I'm honored that you took the time to hang out with us tonight, because that's huge to me.
I love
and I really appreciate it, truly. If you're you're fighting, feeling well, and then you still want to hear my voice, obviously you're really sick, and we should be concerned about you.
Well, maybe that means I'm sick mentally. I mean, I don't know.
Well, you look and sound great, Eric. So I wouldn't have even noticed you were fighting that. So
thank you. I appreciate
it. Steve's very own. He wasn't here to join us in the Zoom meeting, which he hasn't in a while. Kind of a bum. But he has a live stream every Sunday morning, almost every Sunday morning. Sometimes he takes weeks off. Where at 8:30 a.m. Central. It's a great live stream. I highly recommend joining it and then staying the entire time, because you get points the longer you're in the chat, and then you can use those points for doing fun things like taking photographs, or more importantly, you do a bang or exclamation point and fart. You can interrupt him in the middle of a sentence where it farts on him, where he farts on himself. And I think that's one of the most precious things you can do. So I highly recommend checking out Steve's very own. Wonderful stream. Just because of the little bonus things he does. He is a OBS guru. So anyway. So Linux user space, Eris, I didn't see, I didn't get a notification of my. I've been a little out of the loop here on things. Do you know if that's? Are they? I don't know, season
It's
5 is
out
coming September?
on their Patreon, so if you want to
Okay.
get a early look, you have to join the Patreon. Otherwise, I think it comes out this week.
Monday probably. Yeah, Monday or Tuesday, I
Yeah.
think. Fantastic. All right, and then I'm a podcast called Linux Out Loud. I think we're going to record this week for something. I think so.
Nate, I'm gonna go ahead and hop off, dude. I'll see you
Okay,
next week.
Ben. You have a great time.
All right.
I have 2 co-hosts, Matt and Wendy, and yeah, they're pretty great people. Although a little fun aside, so when robotics season started back up, so Wendy's gonna be busy with robotics. Then my oldest is in robotics now, so it'll be the Robotics Out Loud show here pretty soon. Then we won't have Matt. I have a podcast. I have a website called cubiclenate.com. If you, I write things sometimes, and check it out if you're interested. I was at Vintage Computer Fest Midwest, and I picked myself up a Macintosh. It's my first Mac, and I think it's probably I think pretty much they quit making good computers after this. I think Apple did. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. So Linux Saloon is part of the Tux Digital Network, so check out more great shows at tuxdigital.com. I want to thank you all for your support, however you do it, being a part of the conversation in both the Zoom meeting and the YouTube stream of chat. And I want to thank everyone for watching the show after the fact. Also, I'd like to thank everyone for involved in making Linux and open source tools possible for us to not only have this conversation, but also to have fun and enjoy our technology. Linux truly puts personal back in a personal computer. Thank you for stopping by. Be sure to tip your developers. And please remember to Linux responsibly. Until next time.
Oh, Nate, one last thing.
What's that?
Can I mention my my website real quick?
Yes.
have been trying to get that out. PapalPenguin.com. It's real easy. Just as my name is spelled, just all together. PapalPenguin.com. I'm going to be streaming my Xbox games on Twitch more often, and I'm going to be covering gaming and tech and Linux content again on the socials and on my website. So looking forward to getting people to be able to have some good stuff to be able to. I just posted an article on X just recently about a really cool thing. I got some new cameras, some TP-Link Tapo C110 cameras. It was like about $40 for 2 of them. And I was able to incorporate it using Homebridge and HomeKit into my home app, so I can. It's not a supported camera, but is super cheap and it works perfectly with HomeKit. So check it out. It's really something really cool, especially if you're into home automation like I am.
I am too. This should be interesting. Well, thank you for sharing. You see, now you should have interrupted sooner. We could have, I know.
I was having some technical difficulties
That's
with
all right.
Pipewire and Pulse.
That's all right. You're always free to interrupt.
But yeah, I think for $40 you can't on Amazon you can't, and that was delivered same day with tax.
Oh, very nice.
So I mean, the article is out there. I have a link on my X account, which is Papal Penguin. I'll be posting the link to that article on the other socials as well as threads and stuff like that. But I think it's nice to have an option like Homebridge and other services like that to be able to make devices that aren't compatible officially actually work with things like HomeKit.
That's very cool. Well, thank you for sharing. So be sure to check out, papalpenguin.com. Is that what you said?
Yeah, papalpenguin.com.
Papal.
PAPAL, papalpenguin.com.
Cool. And you're wearing a Q101 shirt, which is a nice blast from the
Yeah, I
90s.
am.
So that's pretty cool.
Oh, they're back, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the station bought the rights back to the name and changed the name right back to Q101.
Oh.
So Q101 is back now. If only we can get the loop around here again. That's not a recording of this a loop of old recordings and stuff, I guess, or just a playlist or whatever. But Q101 has definitely been back for a couple of years now.
No.
Well,
Hot
being
dog.
in Chicago, I listen to them all the time. They got an app. They Q101.com. They got a great morning show too.
Well, who knew? I didn't know. Well, thank you for sharing. All right.
No,
Well,
no
until
problem.
next time. See yous.
Bye.